Hello and welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to OnFest 2013 League of Legends tournament powered by Chaos TV. Both these teams again looking to take home a split of the €5,000 prize pool. We now have Bulgaria's finest and Guru Gaming, and you can probably hear from that dude on stage. I am Pulse. I am joined by Metas. Buddington.
That is
close enough.
Wow, this guy. Metas has died and gone to rest.
He has. When I took over from him, he was literally falling asleep in his chair.
He had been awake for about 30 hours, which doesn't help with staying awake. So, regardless though, we have seen Guru Gaming in the previous game taking a pretty decisive team game there with a very late game orientated team comp with that Kassadin, with that Vayne. Interested to see if they're going to be going for something similar this time, Pulse. What do you predict?
It's very possible. This time around, I haven't actually seen Bulgaria's finalists just as of yet, but Guru Gaming, well, looked very strong in the last game, so we'll see what they can bring to the table. Atrox once again coming out, and probably be going for another late game scaling composition. I mean, this is something we've seen from them at least in the last game, and it worked very well for them, so there's no reason for them to swap up in that regard. But Bulgaria Twins picking out the Shen, leaving a lot of interesting picks out to the board, but Lee Sin has been banned out, which kind of says to me, Spuddington, that there's someone on the Bulgaria's finest who is a very aggressive and very strong jungler mechanically, specifically to play someone like Lee Sin.
Indeed. You can get those people who are just able to carry whole games solo with that Lee Sin. But the interesting thing here is that Bulgaria's finest are essentially stealing away the picks that Guru Gaming were running last game, I do believe. No. Wait, was it them?
Shen,
I've seen the Shen. I've seen the Shen, Ashe, and Sona in a game earlier today, and I've only casted 2 of them.
I don't remember.
And I think it might have been the first one I casted with Metas, actually, thinking about it, which is a pity, but it is a very strong comp.
Yeah. Yes, indeed. And once again, Vladimir will be locked in. Again, I can't remember if that was last game, but we have seen Vladimir before. Again, scales very well into the late game, kind of keeping up with the team's ethos and what they like to run. Varus also brought out, so Varus and Zyra. A lane we haven't seen for a while, specifically because we've seen so much Caitlyn and Zyra recently. And it's interesting that Caitlyn is left open, but hasn't been picked up. So the Varus is very good for counter-initiate, and I feel like they thought they were lacking on CC. So Varus brought into the mix would definitely help them out in that regard.
Yeah, so at the moment, it's looking like their plan may actually be to kind of try and out-split push Shen. They're running that Vladimir, and he is one of the few champions that can outscale Shen as a duelist, and he clears waves extremely fast. If he gets into that situation of 1v1ing Shen, or, and get all the farm he could possibly want, which is liable to happen in top lane, he will actually eventually be able to push Shen back one-on-one, keep him suppressed at his tower, and reduce his ability to just, make those lose-lose situations as Shen is wont to do. That does, however, mean they need that counter-engage. They can't allow themselves to get 4v5'd while Vlad is pushing Shen back, and I think that is why they've taken the Zyra and the Varus.
Indeed, and if you look at Vladimir as well, it's a very intelligent pick specifically in this situation, because even if the best case scenario, they just put Shen against Vlad and Vlad will farm all day, or they swap up 1 versus 2 and Vlad is still good in a 1 versus 2 lane. So he's going to be getting farm regardless. Early game it might shut down Vladimir a bit more than you would kind of want, but it means that no matter really what Bulgaria's finalists do, they're going to have to deal with Vladimir one way or another.
Yeah, one of the things about Vlad in a 2v1 lane, though, is if you can get a really aggressive early dive on him when he's still level 1, the 3-minute 20 timing, you can really dump on him while he is in that situation and force him to be underleveled early. He can actually really suffer and struggle to come back in. But you have to get him early, and that means, aggressive dives. They do have the Elise, but I'm not sure if Ashe is necessarily the best choice for that.
Yeah, it's a very all-in move, and there's a very small window of opportunity. It's essentially like you get double buff, and then you gank Vlad, or it doesn't work, and then forever hold your peace, and Vlad just becomes a monster late game regardless. You can shut him down, he might not do well in team fights, and you could focus him out, but it's still going to be difficult to play against. We could see this. I mean, Elise is one of the better champions at diving very early, because if you want to go for it, then she has Repel to eliminate the turret's aggro, and then you can immediately swap it up to someone else, kind of in a pinch, but it's not ideal, and especially with Crow Assassin being on Atrox once again, they're going to have the ability to lock them up underneath turret if he also meets Elise, and he probably will read that they're going to try and do something to Jesper.
Yeah, that is going to be the question here, is how the junglers choose to play the very early ganks, because I think they're going to have a very large influence on how the game progresses, more so than would normally be the case. Even if they choose to put Vlad and Shen 1v1, it's still going to be very important, because if Shen does get a couple of early kills on Vlad, he can then start to really bully him out, and it'll take a long time for Vlad to really start to push Shen back. He is running that Ghost Flash, which does again point towards a very split push orientated Vlad, but it does also mean less trading power in lane.
It does, but it also signifies how passive he's going to be to get that farm in the lane. That's what he's really looking for in at least the early game and then into the mid game. So they're going to have to do something, and I feel he will be one of the major linchpins in this game, along with the junglers, and deciding what they need to do to make everything come on home. But also, we will definitely see. Oh, my overlay's gone a bit weird. And going straight into the pause timer, got a bit of time to kind of theorycraft about these compositions.
Yeah, I think that Elise pick there was a really, really nice one. Yes, she's a very strong early ganking jungler, but I think what it's really going to do for their team there is it's going to give them a source of major initiation, a ball carrier as it were, that can follow up on an Ash Arrow effectively, and that also is independent of Shen. Shen can come in on her, the ball can go in on her, they can really kind of chain everything off. Normally Elise doesn't work so brilliantly as a primary initiator because it's a bit of a slow animation, but with the Ash Arrow setup, with the crescendo follow-up, that will work very well for them if they can get those fights. The question is going to be though, can they do it? Can they force those 5v4 fights hard enough, and will Vlad be able to capitalize?
Yeah, and that's the million-dollar question, because they have very good counter-initiate as well. Even if Vlad's not there, he's pushing top lane, and then you have Shen there as well. Shen teleports in, then Chain of Corruption comes across, it locks down 2, and then what you're going to do, you don't have any way of initiating on them. That's not even counting in the Stranglethorns, one of the best counter-initiating abilities in the game. I would say though that the initiate isn't like astronomically amazing from Guru Gaming. Like they have Dark Flight from Crow Assassin, and then maybe Diana jumping in with Moonfall. But apart from that, it's fairly weak. And then they have like a short range initiate in the form of Varus ultimate. There's potential, but it's not the same as like a Malphite into an Orianna ultimate. So picking the fight is almost going to be a little bit harder. So it will be easier to get away from that. But at the same time, their picking potential is very good with Dark Flight. And also the aforementioned Moonfall and, you know, all the single target CC abilities like Grasping Roots. So from that perspective, they could always go for a pick and then a fight, or put them into a better position where they have someone locked down and force a fight on top of that.
Yeah, if they can get... It's one of these times where if people are going to play this like straight, if they're not going to look for picks, then Guru Gaming have only really one option, which is to counter-engage with their 4-man and split push with their 1-man in the form of Vlad. Picking potential is always a much more dynamic thing than that, though. It's a very, very kind of... How to describe this? Very kind of close-fought gameplay where a small mistake can turn it either way very, very quickly. Having that ability to just catch someone out is very, very strong, but they have to be so careful because in a close-up jungle fight, that wombo combo of the Ash Arrow Crescendo Shockwave is huge. It will be interesting to see what they actually are able to achieve here, but it's just all so dependent on how Vlad does, really.
Yeah, it's difficult to guarantee picks as well, because you can't know that someone's going to be out of position. And if that never happens, if like Bulgaria's finals play a perfect game, then that's never going to be on the cards for them. So in that sense, it's difficult, but you can kind of open up opportunities as well. So we'll see what happens, but I do agree, like junglers and Vladimir, at least when both of the junglers get that double buff, it will be the most interesting thing to me, at least in the first couple of minutes, would be like, okay, well, where are the junglers going to go? Are they going to try and shut down Vladimir? Is Crow Assassin going to try and defend Vladimir? Or is he going to go for the 3-man dive on bot lane? Or are we going to have a potential 2 versus 1 swap up? I could see that from Bulgaria's finest, because they need to do something about Vlad, but at the same time, will that really help?
It's tricky. It's really, really tricky. Because if you do focus a lot on shutting down that Vladimir, then you are opening yourself up to the potential to start losing those team fights if you're kind of on the back foot with that Ashe comp, with that really strong wombo combo, then it actually becomes a bit harder to deploy it properly. Because when you're the one running away, the Ashe arrow is less effective because there's less distance, so you get less stun. And it's more kind of awkward if you're running away to try and then maneuver your initiator, your ball carrier, into the correct position to jump in and put the shockwave down. It's just, at the same time, it is such a strong team fight. I mean, I can't overstate it enough how good of a team fight Bulgaria's Finest have here. But there's only so much you can really say about it. We do have a We Are Ready here.
Oh, excellent, yeah. But it's all about the execution. I think we take this time and time again as casters. It's alright to Theorycraft and say they have the better team composition, but it all comes down to the execution. And I think that's very apt when it comes to teams like Copenhagen Wolves, who, even when they are behind, when they have the inferior team composition, they just outplay their opponents mechanically when it comes to team fights. So, either way, it will come down to the pure skill, and as we haven't seen Bulgaria's Finest before, it's very difficult to kind of put them on a pedestal and say, okay, well, they're above or below Guru Gaming, who, again, we've only seen one game with them against the previous team, Next Please, so it's very difficult to kind of quantify exactly how good these teams are, but either way, we'll be jumping into the game between Guru Gaming and Bulgaria's Finest, and we're about 10 seconds in, all the players picking their items, and we had some pings coming out from Guru Gaming. Potential invade on the cards.
Yeah, this is one thing we really didn't talk about, which is the potential to get that information at the level 1. I have to say Bulgaria's Finest seem to have a very strong level 1, but Guru Gaming are also fairly solid. They've got the Grasping Roots, they've got the Piercing Arrow, both incredibly powerful tools, but I think compared to the Crit Arrow, compared to the Taunt, the Elise Stun, and the Volley Burst on several people, probably Guru are going to play this defensively. It does look like Bulgaria's Finest are going to go for this.
Yeah, it looks like Guru Gaming are indeed fanning out, at least sitting in the mid lane, so they have that knowledge if they do try like a blue buff invade, but Bulgaria's Finest read that, go into the top jungle and look for their own invasion. It's worth noting that that Sona had at least 6 wards. I mean, she had a stack and then another ward, so it was at least 6. And that's like a declaration of intent. That's like, we're going to ward up your jungle. We're going to ward our own jungle. We're going to ward everything, so we'll have absolute knowledge. And in fact, Guru Gaming have just been revealed. And it's now down to Bulgaria's fans to see how they want to react. Do they still await a red? Or do they try and collapse on to Guru, who they know are in their own jungle?
Well, I think, if I had to guess, Bulgaria's Finest, with that Sona, with so many wards, and she is jazzing out so hard, by the way, with that animation glitch that keeps happening. With those green wards there, in a straight up 2v2 against the opposing duo lane, that's actually not ideal. You're not going to have that vision control, you're not going to have those pink wards, but what that implies to me is they're either going for a 2v1 or they're going to put the mid lane. Because if they were mid lane, it'd be a lot less valuable. And in a 2v1, well, at the same time, it's much less valuable.
Yeah, indeed, and it looks like, well, no, we do have the lane swap up. We have the bot lane going into the top lane. Bulgaria's Finest will be laning against Vladimir, who's going very wisely all the way around his jungle, just in case they're still sitting there. No vision on Elise, no vision on Shen, so very wise indeed, but he's going to be 1 versus 2. This is kind of the typical play, something we did kind of predict, but at the same time we were like, well, it's not going to hurt Vladimir that much. It will hurt him in the first couple levels, but most importantly, it opens up the opportunity for Elise to go double buff and then go onto Vladimir for the gank, the potential level 3 tower dive.
If they go for it, it will be really, really brutal. And actually, Jesper is expecting this. He's seen, I think, Elise going past on that ward, and now Kava OP is kind of hanging around, but Vlad can't, like, dying is really, really bad, yes, but not getting any XP is also pretty bad.
Yeah, and from Elise's perspective, she can just sit at top lane, and it's like, okay, well, I can chunk away at some of these camps, I can kind of hang around here, and as long as I'm zoning Vlad out, as soon as he loses some levels, then he's never going to get to the stage where he can farm, he's never going to even get level 2, so that could be really detrimental. However, we do have the gank coming into the bot lane again. Shadi OP has read the situation, and both top laners, and Shen, of course, in the bot lane right now, who've, well, they're just sitting back, and they're still level 1.
I'd say that actually favors Jesper a little bit, assuming they're able to keep Shen completely zoned just as Vlad is. I also think that if he'd held onto his skill point and leveled Pool first, it could have been the most amazing bait ever. But I think that will actually favour Vlad a little bit better because he's going to be better at remedial farming. When you're under level, one of the best things you can do to catch up and also to be relevant is to apply map pressure by killing minions. Shen is not very good at killing minions when he's level 1 at 4 minutes. And he's actually still being pushed back and forcing the recall, whereas Vlad's going to push up further.
Yeah, I mean, he's not that great at killing minions anyway. That's one of the main reasons you build Sunfire Cape, so you carry on killing. However, in the mid lane, we have Cavop looking for a gank onto Zemano, but Moonfall comes out, should be enough to slow him down. Dako gets locked up, takes a turret shot in return, takes another one though, drops incredibly low, first blood picked up by Shen. Did not even think another tower shot would come out that quickly.
That's pretty unfortunate there by Zyra, getting ignited and getting finished off there. That's actually just really, really huge because that's put Shen right back in it. Able to go back first by a Negatron cloak. That means that one-on-one versus Vlad, Vlad is going to have a hard time doing any damage. However, with no tower, it's going to be difficult for him to stay there anyway, and I expect we'll actually see Vlad just move off to go somewhere else, maybe push out that bot lane once he's cleared the next wave.
Yeah, he's going to do so, but that's really hurt them. Had they actually just carried on pushing and not lost that kill, then Vladimir could just farm all he wants. But now, the fact that Shen's picked up a Negatron cloak, he's not going to be able to completely bully him, because he would have had like an extra level, if not 2 levels on top of him. So then he would have been able to bully Shady around, but he doesn't have that luxury anymore. A bit of a shame, but I still feel that Vlad will win out in the long run. He is about, well, just under 20 CS ahead. That is discounting the fact Shen has picked up that first blood. So we'll see how this works out, but I still feel Vlad is in a good position to at least transition well into the mid and late game.
Yeah, he's going to now have to struggle to get this farm, but if he can get it, he'll be fine. The question is, how is the dynamic of not having a tower going to affect that Vlad versus Shen matchup? Because a lot of the time when you're against a Shen as Vlad, you want to be using that tower for cover. Vlad does not have that option right now. He doesn't have the tower at all, in fact. And so he's just left with no real option but to go back. And Shen's just going to freeze the lane where he is.
I feel like Bulgaria's finest always need a duelist to cope with Vladimir, but most importantly, they're going to need Shen to be that duelist. So he needs to stay just one step ahead of Vladimir, so he can always stay in the top lane. He's always pushing him back very slightly. Maybe he'll win the trade, maybe he won't, but it's not a risk that Vladimir wants to take anyway. So at least he can stay up there and make sure he doesn't join the team fight, because you get to that very scary point where you're 40 minutes into the game. Yes, Shen can jump into play at any moment, but Vladimir's got like 300 farm, and he could essentially give the entire team if he's not tied up. So he's definitely a ticking time bomb in that sense, and Shen will need to stay ahead of him. Do have a potential gank coming from Crow Assassin, but Shady playing it fairly defensively. He's just going to kind of give him a lub tap and push him back to the turret. But honestly, I don't think he's going to win this trade anyway. Now with Elise heading up, this could be the 2 versus 2 trade. Shadow Dash will land onto Jetsper. Sanguine Pool comes out. Of course, they still have the blood well from Crow Assassin, but they need to get out here very quickly. Darkflight comes off cooldown. They should be okay. Doesn't quite get the CC down.
Okay, now the thing here is I think Orianna should roam to the top lane now. She's pushed Diana up. Yes, she's pushing her back, and yes, she's harassing. But look at that creep wave they're building up here. This is getting really, really big, really, really fast. And if they had a 3-man stack to push this tower down, Vlad is not strong right now. He's got a level disadvantage. They might have been able to take a really big chunk out of that inner tower. As it happens, though, looks like Elise is just going to steal away the wraiths. Look to take that blue as well. Possibly, you know, kind of sacrificing a little bit of an advantage because Vlad is not going to have much trouble farming this wave under tower.
Yeah, not at all. I mean, Atrox could go for the gank as well. One of the perils of pushing past the river is that you are much more open to those ganks. And Vlad, as you said, he'll be very happy to just farm it here. He might push it out with Tides of Blood, or, yeah, in fact he is. I thought he might, for a moment, just freeze it and just farm with, like, Transfusion and auto attacks, because that would make it very difficult for Shen to do anything. He could roam, but he wants to stay in the top lane anyway. One of the biggest threats with Shen is not because he's roaming, it's because he can sit in that top lane and then teleport down. So if Vlad had just frozen it, then Shen is kind of in an awkward spot.
He did unfortunately have that stand united already taken, and with the Ash Arrow now up in the bottom lane, with the Crescendo up as well, he could have maybe looked to make some kind of play happen, because he wouldn't have been feeling any pressure to return to that top lane if Vlad had not been pushing. That's going to mean that he is forced to return here. He could still make that play happen. And does look like Guru are going to try and force him to teleport down by going for this dragon. But it does... I do actually fully understand that decision made.
Yeah, I mean, they don't need to force him to go down either, because, in fact, this is just going to be a stealth dragon, because they knew that bot lane had recalled, they knew the jungler probably had as well, and Orianna was nowhere to be seen. Logical conclusion, they probably just recalled, so there's an easy dragon pickup. They didn't need to bait the Shen ultimate, and that is still there, so... I mean, honestly, Vlad's main objective isn't to push, it's just to keep on farming, and they've not done anything really to stop that eventuality happening.
Yeah, and Zamano there getting stunned on the tower, but yeah, it's a very difficult situation. He has to juggle it effectively. I'm still a little curious as to when he will kind of get to the point of being able to fight Shen, because if you look, he's actually got pretty decent farm by comparison to Shen. The gold difference between them is probably now roughly equal as well, so the difference is mostly on XP. And I'm just curious when that will equalize and when Vlad hits critical mass. It's not a matchup I'm experienced in enough myself to say definitively Vlad can 1v1 Shen effectively. Now, Ash Arrow in mid.
Yeah, and straight onto Zamano Rex, into with the shockwave, and Akava OP is also there, follows with the venomous bite. Auto attacks finish that one off.
Nicely done there. That was a very long-ranged Ash Arrow to actually hit. No offense to a lot of people that play Ashe, but they miss quite often when they're going right from bot lane to right in mid lane. But if they do hit, such a high reward play. It's going to give them that opportunity to push out the mid lane. But with the Bloodwell up, Aatrox should be able to hold this for now.
Yeah, especially when it's kind of like perpendicular to the lane instead of like straight down it, which is kind of like not what you expect from an Ashe. It's like, because you have to aim precisely at the right point in lane. That's kind of, in fact, at the bot lane, those Stranglethorns comes across into the Trains of Corruption. Now the Shen ultimate comes across, misses the crescendo, completely whiffs. LT is still backing up. Dako might be the one to be picked up, flash into the dash, picks up the kill, and Cilium still off to the side, and Dako is still staying in. I'm surprised he didn't back off. He's looking for blood, not quite enough. The passive is up, lands onto Ashe, not quite enough.
No, indeed. However, Vlad will now push down this top tower. He should be able to take it. He's got a big wave built up. Maybe not on this wave, maybe on the next. But regardless, it's going to be a trade of those outer towers, I expect. Ashe will probably head up there soon-ish. That is a good trade, though. That is a valuable tower to take down on the bot lane, not so valuable in the top. Giving the extra gold to the Ashe there, who I believe picked up all the kills. Not 100% certain. That one assist is probably from that Ashe arrow in mid lane. So, nice play there from Bulgaria's finest, just taking advantages.
Yeah, Bulgaria's finest, I feel, had to make the early advantage because Guru are only going to get stronger. Another Ashe arrow lands onto Diana, and this is surely another kill. Shockwave comes in. There we go, cleans up with the command attack, and Ashe making the plays.
Never stand still, apparently.
Yeah, never stay in your lane either, apparently, yeah.
It's kind of dangerous. Hitbox is very, very large on the arrow, but I'm just amazed he's able to land these reliably, but we got aggression from Aatrox.
Yeah, Crow Assassin still looking for the auto attacks. Blazotorns come out, and the Neurotoxin into the Venomous Bite. Just sitting around looking to get the execute again with the Venomous Bite. Looking for the auto attacks. He's going quite deep though. Has a repel. Looks to follow up from the Dark Flight. Cocoon lands. Vitalink picks it up and will be backing on off.
Nicely done once again. And this is starting to get quite nasty. Bulgaria's finest are taking quite a few advantages across the map, and LT is getting pinned in a very unpleasant place.
Yeah, he does have the flash though, and in fact opts to use it. Elise doesn't follow for repel, but again, they're just making advantages. A flash is a big deal when it comes to things like this. I would say though that it's not like the other games we've casted today, Splittington, in that it's been a complete snowbally game and they just pushed for the win at 20 minutes, because Guru have very good late game. And we've seen before that they can hold off and they can still go for team fights. If we see Bulgaria's finest kind of let slip a kill here and there, or an objective or a Baron, then Guru Gaming can just come right back into the action. And yes, Bulgaria's finest have a very good team fight, but so did Guru Gaming, and Vladimir scales way harder than pretty much anything on that team composition from Bulgaria's finest, maybe apart from the Ashe.
Yeah, well, AD carries are in a class of their own. Ashe versus Varus in terms of scaling is an interesting question to ponder. I suppose Ashe is probably a little bit stronger just because her CC is more useful and her range is a little bit longer and her base attack. Actually, she's got quite a few advantages, but the flat burst damage, the percent health damage from Varus is still very valuable late game.
Yeah, we often see Varus's build like a Bloodthirster and then the Last Whisper, but Daku has found himself caught in the mid lane. Dragonforge comes out. Can it lock up 4? It locked up 2. And the minions. It looks like we are looking for them to collapse. The ultimate comes in. Sanuite comes out. Picks up the kill onto Diana. Daku has also been picked up. In fact, he's still alive. But now we have the collapse. 3 versus 5. Hero Plague lands onto 3. They are splitting up the team fight. Crow Assassin doesn't have the blood well. And Elfie just can't even get his damage out. He's now backing off, and the Venom Spike comes down. Dissonance for the extra attack, for the extra movement speed. Auto attack come in, and Kava picks up another kill. I'm gonna have to question whether that collapse was really the right decision.
Well, it was in large part due to the exhaust on Jesper really ruined his damage. Was not able to do very much in that fight, but that's going to cost another inner tower. Yes, perhaps that was a poorly considered fight, because if Vlad, for instance, had just gone around behind to the tower, they probably could have wave cleared pretty effectively. A lot of the high cooldown, crescendo, stuff like crescendo was already used, and I don't think they would have gone for the dive. It was just one of those questionable, can we not, and could turn on a dime things that really didn't work for them.
Yeah. I hope that will be the wake-up call for Guru Gaming to be like, okay, right now we just need to play it defensive. Ward our own jungle, turtle up, get Vlad farmed, get our AD carry farmed, and just play the late game, play the mid and late game, and then we'll be on an even field. But now with Dragon up, it's going to at least force them to kind of step away from that shell, out of their comfort zone, and potentially go for another detrimental team fight, especially if Pro Assassin gets caught. He Voltas paddling, comes across, knocks him in the face, but again, I don't feel like this would be a good fight for Guru Gaming. It might be in the best interest to simply concede it.
Yeah, and remember there is a big wave at that top lane. If they could sneak Jesper up there, they could just get him up there, with Shen unable to get there in return, but it doesn't look like that's going to happen. Then maybe they could have made something happen, but they did not know, I suspect, about the level of vision control available and didn't decide to go for it. As it happens now, though, they're being forced back quite significantly. 5.3k gold is now starting to open up to a degree of difference that I don't think we saw when we saw them playing earlier. It's going to be interesting, though. I just don't know how strong the dive is from Bulgaria's finest, because that's probably what's going to become relevant.
Yeah, that's very key, because if they have weak tower dive and they can't actually go for the tower dive and nuke them down in the blink of an eye, that's the type of fight that they want, then we'll just have Guru Gaming sitting under the towers, clearing the waves with Vladimir and clearing the waves with Diana, and they'll never actually get to go for a fight. And they have very good stalling potential, like Piercing Arrow, Crescent Strike, and meanwhile in the mid lane, huge ultimate comes out from Orianna. It's not enough damage just as of yet, but now Daku zoned off to the side, huge damage comes across, Ash Arrow comes down, LT as well, he's backing off, but Zamano Rexy doesn't quite have the zoning potential. And now in the 1 versus 2, Sona kiting him away. Venom's Bite comes down. More auto attacks to follow. Jesper comes in from the top lane. He clears out the Spiderlings, but not sure if there's enough damage. Venomous Bite comes down, picks up the next kill, and flash into the dash onto Crow Assassin, locks him up, and now Jesper in the bad position. Blazer Torment comes in, but the Hero Plague is very strong. Lands onto 3, but again, just not quite hitting the same damage that they want. And I think that's the recurring theme of this game's Bullington. They just don't have enough damage.
Plus Vlad getting exhausted again, just as he's trying to do all the damage he can. But that fight there, at the end, Vlad and Aatrox need not have been caught. If they had simply abandoned the people that were going to die, basically Diana in that case, they could have just cut their losses and run. It wouldn't have been as bad of a result. And for all the amount we've talked about, how important Vlad is going to be in this game, we've not really mentioned the fact that Diana is not doing well right now.
Yeah, like Diana's one of those champions who can do very well. If she snowballs ahead, again, very difficult to deal with, a lot like Vladimir, because you can build a Zhonya's Hourglass like she's already done, and then you focus it, it's like, oh, well, Zhonya's Hourglass, now we can't do anything. But when you're behind, it's like, oh, okay, well, we weren't really caring about you anyway, Diana, but you've made yourself invulnerable and can't attack us for 2.5 seconds. Great. So Diana has to get ahead to make herself relevant. She's still got CC, she's still got the base damages, which are very strong, but she's a lot easier to shut down.
So now the question is going to be how to respond to Shen. As mentioned previously, Vlad is not able to deal with it. Actually, he's not maybe going to be able to deal with anything.
Yeah, me on the top. Nope, we have the bot lane trade of LT and Shady, but it's going to be very slow. Shen doesn't do the most massive amount of in the world, but in a one-on-one trade, you will definitely win against LT. Top tower falls. Bulgaria's finest taking advantage after advantage. Guru Gang really need to kind of settle down in the trenches and kind of get into the foxholes, because if they don't stall this one out, if they don't start to turtle, as soon as one of these inhibitor turrets fall, it's probably game.
Yeah, they are starting to buckle at this point. Ashe is freely farming that mid lane, pushing it out, will be able to get to join up the team for this siege, and all this time Shen is shoving that bot lane. They're looking to go for this. I don't think they're going to be able to actually get it though, unless Vlad has magically grown CC.
No, it's great to have him with the home guard, and he'd probably ghosting as well, but he catches up to them, he Hemo plays, and they just carry on running. You know, unless he's running like a Rylai's Crystal Scepter, and that's still probably not going to be enough. Especially when you have Sona with the extra movement speed, you have Orianna with distance, it's just not going to be enough. The flash into the initiate, and huge ultimate in the form of Shockwave comes across into Crescendo. The Wombo combo, now with Shen turning up into the scene. This is so messy. 2 for 0 trade, another kill, that's going to be the third, that's the fourth. Looking for the last kill onto Crow Assassin. They could go for it, they don't necessarily need it, but there's the clean ace, that's 5 for 0. And most likely, if not an inhibitor, well, that's...
5 for 1!
It's going to be a double kill and then 5 for 1 trade. But that's going to be an inhibitor falling, and it's just gotten oh so hard for Guru to come back.
Yeah, really hard to come back from this kind of deficit. And Bulgaria's finest look almost like they were heading for Baron, but they can't do that, so they're not gonna. I was wondering why they were recalling so far when everyone was dead. But regardless, yeah, with that inhib gone, Bulgaria were already... Bulgaria's finest, not the whole of Bulgaria, but Bulgaria's finest were... were in fact already forcing them back, were already punishing them really hard with that Shen. And now with the super minions, they can now essentially put super minions top, Shen mid and team bottom, or you know, swap Shen and the team, and it will just make it so hard for Guru, especially when they were already almost in a 5-on-5 dive there before.
Yeah, and it's never really going to get to the point where Vladimir has formed into a beast, because they can't turtle. Like, the inhibitor being down means they will naturally be pushed in by the minions. And even now, Vladimir's trading off against Shen, but he's barely denting his feint. So Jesper doesn't have enough sustain, he doesn't have enough damage, and he can't really offer enough to a team fight to make himself relevant. And Varus, he wants the red buff, but another Ashe arrow comes across. He goes into the cleanse. It's not going to be enough though. Dako again has also been caught alongside his AD carry. That's a 2 and 0 advantage to Bulgaria's finest, and they can do whatever they want right now. They can go for another siege, they can pick up bot turret, or they can just go onto Baron, because no one's going to stop them.
It's true, unless there's like some incredible steal now, and indeed, Crow Assassin, no matter how unlikely it is, has no choice essentially, logically, but to go for this and to try and steal it. Even if he hasn't got smite, he just, like, he has to go for this, because if he doesn't steal this, they've lost, essentially. Which kind of does make it a little bit strange that Bulgaria's finest even went for it at all, but I guess from their point they're feeling very confident. They force him off, they take the Baron. That is an 11,000 gold difference at 22 minutes. An inhib already down. Doesn't look good for Guru.
Even then, when Crow Assassin was that low, I felt like he could have walked away, then flash into Dark Flighted. Because that would have been enough, and that would have caught them by surprise, especially because they had it was. It's like, okay, he's backing off, and in a split second, he could have closed all that distance again. But that might have been an attempt for a steal. Personally, what I would have done, because I main jungle and I do wacky things that generally don't turn out. But he had to go for it, and I fully agree to Puddington when you said that. Because he didn't, then even if he died, okay, they've lost another kill, and it's going to take them a while anyway to recall and get all their buffs and really ramp up for the next team fight. But at least in that situation, if he had gone for the steal, then it would have given them like a couple minutes to kind of reevaluate.
Sona is jazzing, but yeah, really, and at this point, I mean, Metas will say this too, but we like to big up what's going on. But in games like this, where there's just nothing except Jesper possibly dying, but in games like this, where there is just no hope, almost like, okay, there is a 0.1% chance of coming back in a situation like this. It's so hard to say, well, if they just win this fight, which they're engaged.
Yeah, Darkblight comes across and they've got the front line there, but the assassins get completely decimated. Repel comes up and Camo is still there, soaking up the damage alongside his Spiderling. No kills actually come out, rather surprisingly, but Zamano Rex and Crow Assassin have dropped solo. They're not even going to be coming into contention. Flash, well, rather the dash comes out, and Jesper, he is trying valiantly, but it's not enough. The flash into Cocoon, decimate and delete, evaporate LT from the map. And they're just having to deal with the super minions, and this looks like Last Chance Saloon.
I think Last Chance Saloon has been and gone. We're out the door at this point. Shen is going to take this bottom tower. They will take that bottom inhib. There is no plausible way that Vlad can stop them. Case in point. And they will take that inhib. They're with the Baron, with the 15k, with 3 inhibs down. I think we can call GG.
Yeah, Dako, again, he drops to about 5% HP, but with the 5-man strong Bulgaria's finest pushing down the front doors, the flash and dash, I should say, that's the Nexus falling. So that's GG well played, going straight to Bulgaria's finest, looking to be very dominant in this game, getting an advantage, pushing it home, building that momentum. Nothing could really stop the freight train when it was rolling, I should say. And we should be moving on to the next game. Again, I'm not really sure on the schedule splitting thing because it has changed like at least twice today.
It's the schedule is a bizarre creature. Sometimes you observe it, sometimes you don't. Sometimes the observation of it seems to change it. Regardless, though, we will just go into a break while we get things set up. Hopefully, it shouldn't be too long. I don't know exactly though. So stay tuned, ladies and gentlemen. We will be right back.